So much of the eating we do is emotional stress, mindless eating. Fitness or business is really what's going on between our ears. Rarely is someone super consistent and they're not progressing. It's almost always a consistency issue. In my experience, 17 plus years, 99.9% of the time, it's a consistency issue. It's not a plateau.
How do we get our kids to eat better?
If you want them to eat a certain way, eat the way you want them to eat. If you want them to behave a certain way, behave that way. Kids don't do what you say, they do what you do.
Everyone knows how to lose weight, how to eat even healthier. Most people know. Why don't they?
The answer to that question is my life's work. That is what MyBodyTutor does, is answer that question. And I guess it comes down to three things. Number one,
Adam Gilbert, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, this has been a long time coming. One, the fact that I've known you now for 7 years, 6 years, I don't know, forever. And we've never met in person until about 5 minutes ago, which is pretty cool. Two, because it was horrific to get you here. We get hit with a blizzard snowstorm here in Nashville where we're recording, and then your Uber's canceled on you, your flight canceled on you. You had fun getting here.
A lot of discomfort to get here, but it has been well worth it.
It's like cold plunging, man. Discomfort leads to goodness. We'll talk about that maybe later. Actually, I'd love to get your opinion on that.
For sure.
But before we do, so I know you as a father, as a husband, as an entrepreneur, as a not just entrepreneur, but as a full-fledged business owner of a very successful business called MyBodyTutor, something that I've been a supporter of, a customer of, an avid cheerleader for 6-7 years now. I absolutely love it. I know that you also are one of the few fitness influencers, maybe the only one I know, that talks about weekly eating pizza. So we're going to talk about that too all today. But before we get to all that, that's who you are. But who was Adam Gilbert?
Thank you for the introduction again. This is so awesome to meet you in person. Who was I? So I guess my story starts witnessing my father have a heart attack. I was in 7th grade. He had called my sister. My parents were divorced. And he had called us over. Hey, I think I'm having a heart attack. We drove over. We drive over. He's sweating. He's pacing. We drive him to the hospital. He's having a heart attack. A few days later, he has triple bypass surgery.
Jeez.
So seeing him deteriorate and seeing him just, hooked up to these machines and all that stuff, and before the surgery, after the surgery, he was crying, rightfully so. It was very scary. That really made a huge impact on me. And I think that's really where my story begins in terms of just my life's work.
Wanting something different.
Yeah.
What were you guys what was the household, we'll call it nutrition and exercise, fitness world? What was that like for you growing up? Was it typical standard American diet? Were you above, healthier than that? Yeah.
So I think, my parents are divorced. So I think my mom was always very health conscious, whereas my father, I think, was just more of a workaholic. He smoked two packs of cigarettes a day. I think he just realized, or he let success get in the way of his health. And he just put work first, and his health deteriorated because of it. Yeah.
Did he? I'm assuming he made it through that. Is he still around today?
So he made it through the heart attack, thankfully. He had triple bypass surgery, but then later that year, he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Ooh.
That was obviously a very tough year. And then seeing him deteriorate mentally and physically throughout the years until he did pass away was obviously very hard.
Yeah, I bet. How old were you when he passed?
It was about 10 years ago now.
Okay.
But he had kind of, there was a lot of complications with the multiple sclerosis. He had dementia and, impacted him. So I feel like he's been gone for longer than that. But, it's just when you see your father, just deteriorate mentally and physically throughout the years, you realize that health is truly everything.
Yeah.
And that without it, nothing means all that much.
Yeah. It reminds me of that famous, I'm going to butcher the quote, right? But it's something along the lines of all things matter until you're sick and you realize only one thing matters.
Exactly. Or when you have your health, you have unlimited wishes.
Yeah.
When you don't have your health, you only have one wish.
You have one, yeah. That's such a powerful statement. I remember that just hit me so hard. So I want to get to, obviously I want to talk about health today. I want to talk about some fitness things like how to get a six pack, or how to lose the weight, how to work out more, how to, where's accountability fit, all that I want to get to. But first I would love to talk about just growing a business, entrepreneurship in general. Obviously, a lot of my listeners are real estate investors, a lot of business owners. And I think the lessons learned on how you've built MyBodyTutor over the years, I think will come in super handy. By the way, did we drop the My? Is that gone, or is it BodyTutor now?
It's BodyTutor now.
Okay.
I mean, it's still MyBodyTutor, the website.
Sure.
But the logo is BodyTutor now. So.
All right. I'm gonna say from now on, BodyTutor.
All right.
All right. Yeah, I'm stuck on My, but
I
that's
know.
all right.
Me too. Actually.
Yeah. Rebranding is tough. I still say the word bigger pocket sometimes when I'm talking about better life. I'm like, oh wait, wrong word. Okay. All right. So your father goes through that tough time, obviously, and you're watching that happen, and you're saying, I need to take better care of my health. How does that lead to, I'm going to start a business around health? Was that right away? Did you go through several other career options first?
So it happened in 7th grade. I realized like health is truly everything. And it just became, it made me become very passionate about health because I never wanted to experience that. I was always scared of hospitals, and when you see, your father hooked up to all these machines and monitors, it was really scary. So it was like, I want to do everything possible to, have my health for as long as possible. So that's where it started. Cool. And it was really like, this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Although, there were some detours throughout the years. In college, I majored in accounting as well. So I actually worked for a big 4 accounting firm, Ernst & Young, for 2 years out of college.
Ooh, that sounds fun. Did you actually enjoy that, or was that just
I still have nightmares about it. Literally the first day of work there, I had a stomachache. I'm like, oh my God, this is not for me.
Dude,
and I was plotting my exit day one.
I remember that when I took a job at a bank as like a banker, so opening up checking accounts and credit cards and loans and all that. And I remember day one, like I didn't want the job. I was doing real estate. I didn't want the job, but I needed money, so I took the job. And I remember it was like 9:01, and I'm looking at the clock, and I'm in a tie, and it's like I'm just like, this sucks. That pit in my stomach, like, what am I doing? Like, this is not me. This is not what I'm meant to do.
No, I was living in New York City, and I would walk to work. The office at the time was in Times Square, and every single day I'd have a stomachache walking to work. And I would like tell my mom, and she'd be like, people would kill for your job. Like, why can't you appreciate it? And it's like, it's not that I don't appreciate it. I just know this is not what I'm meant to be doing.
Yeah. So what was phase 1 in building then BodyTutor? Did you do it while you were at the job, or did you quit and then?
So phase 1 was like, telling my mom, like, I was fully self-sufficient, but it was like, hey, I think I'm quitting this job. This is not for me. I started, September of 2005, and I quit Ernst & Young in January of 2007. And it's like, I'm quitting. And, she's like, all right, great. But all these people that are encouraging you to pursue your passions, are they going to be paying your rent? Are they going to be paying your bills? I'm like, no, but like, I have to do this, and for me at that time, it was just this pressure that like, I couldn't think about anything else. And I had this idea, and I was always the go-to guy for health and fitness. People would always ask me for advice and, different ideas, et cetera. And it was always the same story. It was always, I love the plan you made for me, and the but was I got caught up with work, life, happy hour, kids, et cetera. Right. And that's where the big aha moment came for me, was like, these people knew what to do. I had given them a plan they liked, but they just couldn't follow through.
And why weren't they able to follow through? I mean, why do people today? I mean, everyone knows how to lose weight. Everyone knows how to build muscle, how to eat even healthier. Most people know. Why don't they?
Well, I mean, the answer to that question is my life's work. I mean, that is what MyBodyTutor does, is answer that question. And I guess it comes down to 3 things. Number 1, the diets that we try to follow are not sustainable, right? So you can only follow a cookie diet or a shake diet or a lettuce diet or a no-carb diet for so long, right? It has to be practical. It has to be realistic. It has to be based on the realities of your life. So that's first and foremost. Number 2 is most plans out there really only focus on the food you're eating. And if the only thing changing is the food you're eating, you're not going to change for the long term, right? A big part of what we focus on is what we call MPH, M for mindset, P for psychology, and H for habits, right? When you actually change your mindset and psychology and habits, when you change your relationship with food, it takes willpower out of the equation, right? And so much of success, fitness or business, is really what's going on between our ears, right? And that's a big part of it. And then last but not least, in terms of why consistency is so hard, is a lack of accountability, right? Without accountability, it's too easy to make excuses. It's too easy to rationalize to ourselves during and after a long day. And that's why we offer it on a daily basis. So it's really the combination of those 3 things that, has enabled us to do what we do for over 17 years now.
That's beautiful. I mean, this is why you and I have gotten along so well over the years. Is like everything you just said, you could apply directly to business and entrepreneurship, right? Like the idea of like unsustainable diet or unsustainable work, or like, like I'm going to sign up for some course and that's going to be the solution to my problems. I'm going to sell on Amazon. I'm going to do an Etsy shop, whatever the thing is.
Right.
Like you just like, oh, I'm going to go all in and do it. And then it's just not sustainable.
Yep.
they focus so much on that piece and not the mindset, the psychology, the habits. They focus on just like this, like I'm going to make $1 million. And then the lack of accountability. People just get excited and then they quit 2 months later, a month later. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah. It's really easy to make promises to yourself and break them, but it's a lot harder when you have other people involved.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true, man. I want to harp on that for a second. It's easy to make promises to yourself and break them. Like I am 100 times more likely to keep a promise to a friend than I am to myself.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. Yeah. Because it's like I matter a lot.
Right. But we care about others, and that external accountability really is a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. A huge piece of the Better Life Tribe, obviously, is the idea of accountability, because I'm such a big believer is, yeah, when you tell other people, I mean, there's like science that backs this up, a lot of studies that back this up. You tell other people you're going to do it. Not necessarily like put on your Facebook page, right? Like, I'm going to go lose 20 pounds this year.
Right.
They actually say that's more detrimental to your...
Right, because you're getting the high, the dopamine of like saying you accomplished a goal.
Yep.
Yeah.
You go, girl.
Right,
go. You got this.
And then it's like, oh no, I actually have to do the work now.
Yeah, exactly. But having somebody there to say, okay, I'm going to do this. Now, speaking of the Better Life Tribe, I do want to get to today's show sponsor, which is the Better Life Tribe, as we often have it. But before we get there, let me just say, every episode of the podcast, all the ad revenues, or the money that the Better Life Tribe will actually pay for, and we actually do pay for our own ads, even though we're advertising our own thing, goes directly to a charity of your choosing. So where's the money for this episode going?
First of all, it's amazing that you do that. It's incredible. So this will be going to the National MS Society. Since my father had multiple sclerosis, they are working hard to come up with a cure for that. So that is where I would love for the ad revenue to go.
All right, we'll make it happen.
Thank you.
Hey, quick story for you. About 5 years ago, I went to a real estate event where I met a handful of incredible investors. 2 of them in particular, though, changed my life. Those 2 investors were Brian Murray, Ryan Murdoch. They're now partners with me at Open Door Capital, where we bought over $1 billion worth of real estate. Not a bad ROI for an event, right? Now, why do I share that? Because it's one of the most underutilized tools for real estate investors, events. You can't put a price tag on the relationships you build, new business partners you meet, the knowledge you gain. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about Better Life's REI Summit that I'm personally hosting on May 3rd through May 5th in Denver, Colorado. I'll be there along with a number of other speakers that you might recognize, like Ken McElroy, David Green, AJ Osborne, Brian Murray, who I mentioned earlier, and more. The event's going to be the most actionable real estate event ever, with sessions being structured on a how-to basis, so you can walk away with actionable steps that you can actually implement in your business ASAP. Whether you're a new investor or a seasoned investor, the dual-track sessions ensure that you'll be in sessions relevant to your business and experience. If you're interested in learning more, check out reisummit2024.com. That's reisummit2024.com. Ticket prices are increasing soon, so register ASAP to lock in the lowest rate while you can.
All right. Let's go into a little bit more around what makes BodyTutor different than other programs. I know you mentioned those things, but how does it actually work and why is it so effective? I mean, I'll say this before you answer. When I got on it, I was at like 215, 216, 217 in weight. I lost 40 pounds the first, I think, year of working with it. Then I went and ran a half Ironman and did a half Ironman. It was the most transformative thing. And nothing was shocking about what we did to get there. So what did we do? Like, why did that work for me?
Ultimately, what we did was we devised a diet and exercise plan that was catered and customized to you, and then we helped you stick with it day in and day out, week after week, month after month. Right, each and every day you were sharing what you ate with your coach. Right, you were uploading photos of what you ate or writing a description of what you ate, sharing what you did for exercise if it was an exercise day, and then every single day your coach is writing back to you, each and every day. Right, so it's the fact that you're in communication with your coach every single day. You know, they're guiding you, they're supporting you, they're coaching you, they're holding you accountable. Everything that gets in the way and got in the way of your consistency, they would troubleshoot.
Yeah, and I won't say it's always easy to sit there and like, oh, I got to record my food again. Like, I got to do this again. But in reality, it takes, 10 minutes a day total of time, 5 minutes maybe if I'm quick. Yet so many times I would miss days of reporting. And if I went too many days in a row, a couple of days in a row, my body tutor would reach out to me, and like Matt, and you'd be like, "Hey man, what's going on? Everything good?" He'd text if I don't respond, he'd texting me, he'd calling me. We talk on the phone once in a while. He was like, "Hey, how are things going? What's going on?" And a lot of times it was just, "Hey, it's just been really, really busy. I've been eating fine." But a lot of times it was, "I've not been eating fine, and I don't want to say that." And so it's easier to get busy. I'll report it later. And but it's a lot harder to lie to somebody when they're texting you or calling you. I'm not
Yeah.
going to lie to them.
And that proactive accountability is really, really important. And,
Yeah.
I mean, we've been at this for a long time now. So typically we know the patterns. And
Yeah.
when someone starts out really strong, as they usually do, and they, sometimes have these challenges, and if they stop reporting, it's like usually there's reasons. And one of them is they're not being as, good as they want to be or as perfect as they want to be.
Yeah. I'll give one story about when that made a huge impact on me. And it's going to sound super embarrassing for people listening to this, but I'll say it. I remember the first maybe week or two, I was writing my meals every day. And I thought, like, I would say to people, and I still would say, like, I eat better than probably 80% of people in America, or maybe, I don't know, a good chunk. I was eating meat and vegetables most meals. I didn't have pizza every night. I thought I was doing pretty good. But then I remember after a week or so, Matt texts me, and he was the one I got matched up with. He texts me and he's like, or messaged me, and he's like, hey, how come you're having ice cream every single night? And I remember my response was, what do you mean? Doesn't everybody? Like, I literally said, what do you mean? Doesn't everybody? I had no idea that the majority of the world, maybe the majority of the world does, I don't know. I had no idea that it's not a good idea to have a bowl of ice cream every single solitary night.
Right.
It was just a habit I grew up with from my parents. My dad would have a bowl of ice cream every single day. I grew up in the Midwest where that's normal. You buy ice cream in the 5-quart pails. That's what you buy ice cream in. Every single day I would have ice cream. And I remember like thinking, oh no, I hope they don't make me take that away. Like, I can't not have ice cream every single meal or every single day, like that. It hurt. It felt like I'm like, I can't give that up. I'm assuming that's a common story with people. Is there something that they don't even realize that they're doing that's derailing them? And that alone was 300, 400, 500 calories a day.
Totally. Well, a big part of that is like a lot of people are using food as a reward,
Yeah,
right? So
100%.
to have a hard day, you worked
Yep.
hard, you deserve it, YOLO, whatever you want to
Yeah.
say, right? It's like, I deserve this. And just changing that mindset is really powerful.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of people, they don't even realize they're using it as a reward. And then, of course, if you take that reward away, it's very hard. But one of our core philosophies is we want you to be fit and happy, not fit and miserable, right? And for I think you would attest to this. Like, it wasn't about never enjoying ice cream again,
Yep.
but maybe just not every single night.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that leads us to the idea of a planned indulgence. Can you talk about what that means?
Yeah. So again, I want you to be fit and happy, not fit and miserable. And the plan has to be realistic. It has to be sustainable. It has to be desirable. And to never indulge again is just that's not going to work. So the idea though is to pick and choose what, where, and when is worthwhile and who you're with. And the idea is if it's so good that you'll remember it in 2 weeks' time,
Yeah.
then it's worth it, right? And we all indulge, or some of us used to indulge in bags of chips or cookies or whatever it might be. And sure, they're tasty, but we don't even remember it the following day, sometimes even that same afternoon,
Yeah.
right? So what I want you to do is save yourself for the good stuff, the worthwhile stuff, the stuff that will pass the 2-week test. And ask yourself, will I remember this in 2 weeks' time? And I will never turn down a freshly baked cookie. I will never turn down delicious food that's like special. But like a bag of chips or cookies, like you can get that in any corner of the world.
Yeah.
Right. So save yourself for the good stuff, and it makes it a lot easier to kind of turn down the everyday temptations that aren't even that good.
And in fact, it might even make the good stuff even better because you're not every day getting that ice cream. So the ice cream you get that's really good is even better.
100%. And like one of the secrets to happiness is anticipation, right? And
Yeah.
it's fun to look forward to things, right? I've been looking forward to this. Like it's fun to look forward to things. And if you gave me the opportunity to have my favorite food tonight or in a week from now, I would usually choose a week from now because then I get to look forward to it all week versus just, all right, it's tonight and it's over, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's like a vacation. You plan a vacation. Obviously, the vacation itself is amazing, but part of the fun of the vacation is looking forward to the vacation, right? That anticipation.
So how does this relate to the idea of cheat days?
So I don't believe in cheat days. I don't believe in the word cheat when it comes to food. There's no reason to feel guilty. We want to stop kind of, labeling food good or bad, because when you label it bad and then you eat bad, you feel bad, and it becomes this vicious cycle. There's food that's healthier for you. There's foods that is nutritious for you, but it's not, good or bad, right? There's food that's going to help you get closer to your goal and food that maybe doesn't. But to me, it's not about cheat days. To me, it's about picking, a few times a week where you want to indulge.
Yeah.
And it should be guilt-free. There should be, you shouldn't feel bad about it. And that's it.
Yeah, it's so important. I can't overemphasize how important, and how that's impacted me. The idea of looking forward to something. I even have a note. I'll if something pops in my head, that sounds really good right now. It's almost like Oprah's. She has a rule called like the 24-hour rule. It's like wait to buy something for 24 hours, and if she still wants it, then so I'll like take a note and like, oh, you know what sounds really good right now? An Oreo milkshake. Oh, from Jack in the Box. Geez, like that sounds amazing. I'll write it down. Like on my like next week, I'm gonna get an Oreo milkshake. And most of the time, by tomorrow, I'm like, why did I want an Oreo milkshake so bad? Like that actually doesn't sound that good. It was a momentary thing. Maybe related to something I was going through, some stress, or maybe just like brought up a memory of how I enjoyed them. And if it sticks with me for a few days, then great. Friday night, I'm gonna enjoy it, and then not having guilt it makes food taste so much better.
It makes it taste so much better. And as I often say, it's like it's never about the food. It's about what the food allows us to avoid and or the void it fills.
Yeah.
Right. So often we're after the experience of eating something or drinking something, a milkshake can bring back fun childhood memories, or we're really stressed or disappointed or frustrated. But it's rarely about the food, right? It's about what the food allows us to avoid. And I know one of the things we help our clients do is help them get in touch with that emotional aspect of it, the psychology of it, right? Because so many of our decisions are based on what's going on between our ears. It's not, it's not just about what we think we want.
It's so true. So let's shift back over a little bit to the entrepreneurship side of things. As you're building, we're going to go back and forth a little bit, but as you were building MyBodyTutor, which is now BodyTutor, as you were building it, what did you do in the beginning to start getting clients? I mean, what was like, that's always, I feel like the hardest push, getting that flywheel working or getting that ball rolling. What did you do to get started?
Yeah. So first off, when I was at Ernst & Young, I knew I wanted to pursue this. I was the go-to guy. The thing that was holding me back was I felt like I had to start the next Google or Facebook or all these companies. Right. And I had all these ideas for health and fitness. And it wasn't until I had this kind of revelation that small is the new big, right? Like, instead of going large, it's going small, right? And it's like, what do I love helping people do? What have I been helping people do forever? Helping people get in shape. Yeah. So it was put up a website, start with one person, then the next person, then the person after, right? And what I did to get my first clients back then, it was 2007. There was such a thing as AOL Instant Messenger. Yeah. A lot of new people or younger people won't know what that is, but I had my AIM screen name on there, and I said, call or IM me. And I put up a website, and it was very, very basic. I did it myself. It was through like Yahoo Template Builder, and people would IM me. And I literally remember our first client. Her name was Simi, and we were IMing for hours. She's like, "Is this a scam? Is this like?" I'm like, "I promise you, it's not. Just give me a chance. I'll give you your money back." Like it was just like, "Just give me a chance. I'll give you your money back." And that's actually, we still offer that because I really believe in what we do, money back guarantee. But it was just give me a chance. And I would IM people, and it was just for hours the first few weeks. I was IMing people, they were IMing me, we were talking, we were texting, and then I was able to get enough clients where I started this in February of 2007. In April of 2007, I had to kind of stop a little bit because I couldn't handle the growth.
That's beautiful. When that happens, it's maybe a little more rare. So why do you think it happened for you? Like why did it hit that nerve?
I think we found a need where I think back then a lot of people were offering information, and it's interesting how the landscape online has changed. But back then it was all about knowledge, right? Yep. Buy my course, buy this. Yep. I'm going to teach you this. And I think what they failed to realize is it wasn't about a lack of knowledge; it's about a lack of consistent action, right? And my thesis from day one has always been, people know what to do for the most part. I mean, I know salad is better for you than a milkshake, right? We know this, right? So I always assume people know that. I was obsessed with how do we help you do that? And we've always said, I know you know what to do. We're going to help you do it. Yeah. And that's where I think people resonated with that. And it's like, hey, he's telling me I know what I'm doing, which is true. I mean, there's a reason we work with nutritionists, weight loss coaches, doctors, professional athletes, best-selling New York Times authors on diet books. These people all know what to do, right? They're just not doing it, right? And knowing what to do and actually doing it is very different.
Well, it's cool too. Is one thing I really liked about working with you guys is these little things, like these little tiny like tips or ideas that I'd hear. Whether it's something you have that stuff you write every week, and I really, really good stuff. I mean, that alone should be a book and be a New York Times bestseller. What you've written, but even just like a tip, like here, I'll give one example. I don't remember if it was you or if it was my actual, coach, Matt, that did it, but pour water on your food when you're done. Right? Like the idea of like you're at a restaurant and you eat some food and you're like, I'm done. I'm satisfied. I don't need more. But I am somebody who will always finish the French fries that are there, or the chicken nuggets, or whatever the thing is, right? Especially if it's my kids' food and they're done. It's just the longer it sits there, the more chance I have of I'm gonna eat it every time, until somebody's like, just pour some water on it, and I'm like, okay. So I pour water on it, and instantly I don't want to eat anymore. Solve that problem immediately while I had the strength, but willpower just gets decreased over time when that French fry pile is sitting there.
Yes, and you don't get bonus points for using hero like willpower.
Yeah.
And it's always easier to avoid the dragon than it is to slay it.
Ooh.
And I think we're so conditioned, many of us, to finish our plates. Our parents said, finish your plates. But something I try to remind clients and people is that, like, food you don't need that you eat is still a form of waste, right? And we're so conditioned, like, eat this food. There's starving children out there. Unfortunately and sadly, when we finish our plates, we're not feeding starving children. So food you don't need that you eat is still a form of waste.
Yeah, that's really good. How do we, on that note, how do we get our kids to eat better and in a more diverse way? Like right now, my kids, all they want, right, is the typical, like the buttered noodles. They want the mac and cheese or what, like chicken nuggets. How do we get them to eat better?
Yeah,
more sometimes. I'm
extremely passionate about parenting. I love my kids to death. Don't play a parenting expert online or the internet. It is very tough with kids. I will say though, as I'm sure you know, and perhaps we'll get more into it later, but kids don't do what you say; they do what you do, right? Yeah. And that is one of the most challenging and wonderful things about parents, right? Like, you could say you want them to do something. You could be like, have more patience. But as you're saying have more patience, you're not showing patience, right? If you want them to eat a certain way, eat the way you want them to eat.
Yeah.
If you want them to behave a certain way, behave that way, right? It's like some parents complain about screen time, yet they're on their phone all day.
All day, yeah.
Right? So I think the best thing you can do is set the example, right? Do what you want them to do. Put those foods in front of them. Be willing to, waste. Like, unfortunately, as you know, your kids could love one thing one week, you buy a ton of it, and then the next week they're off it, right? They don't want it. That's gross, right? So you have to be willing to experiment. You have to be willing to, put different foods in front of them, and try it.
How do you allow substitutions for your kids especially when they're younger? How old are they now? 9
and 6.
Okay, well, so yeah, they're still young. Do you still do you offer substitutions? For example, you guys are having something like that they're just not going to want, quinoa salad, let's say, and the kid's like, I don't want a quinoa salad. Do you like, okay, well, I'll make you chicken nuggets tonight, or are you you eat what we eat?
It's more whatever you, in a way, it's whatever you like that we think is healthy to an extent, because listen, having hungry kids does not help with behavior,
yeah.
Right? So, like, we need them to eat. We want them to eat.
Yep.
So there is that fine line, that balance. It is tricky.
Yeah.
But I will say, exposing them to a lot of foods, we try not to make treats such a big deal, because the old, like, well, if you finish your plate, then you can have dessert.
Yep.
Then dessert becomes this forbidden fruit. It becomes this special thing. It's like, it's just a cookie, right?
Yeah.
It's just a ice cream, whatever it might be. It's not that big a deal. So we really try for that, and that seems to have helped. But again, it's a work in progress.
Yeah. Have you read the book French Kids Eat Everything? Heard of that one?
I've heard of it. Yes.
Yeah, that was a fascinating one. I really liked it, and the idea behind that book, it's worth for parents who are struggling out there getting their kids to eat. It would definitely help me. But the idea is that food, like with our kids, we treat food as if it's not that important. We're just like, here, eat some food, right? But the French treat food like it's the most important thing in the world. And so, like, learning to like food takes a long time. Expanding your palate takes years, and they have training in it, and they have it's a part of the school curriculum, right? As trying new foods and experimenting, but also talking through it. Like, we teach our kids how to do the Pythagorean theorem or whatever, right? Like, that's such an important thing in America, is like, know this math thing, but then eat this crap food for lunch. That's not important. Like, we don't. And I think the French have that right, at least in that regard, of like, food is the most important thing, or at least, top 2 or 3 in life, because it guides everything else. So why do we leave it as a leftover?
It impacts every aspect of your life, for sure. I think the one thing I think about a lot is, a lot of parents come to us, they have, they want to lose weight, they want to set the example for their kids. And again, how you are is the best model for your kids, right? You can say you want them to be a certain way, but how you are yourself is the best thing you can possibly do for them. If you want them to be healthy, be healthy yourself, right? If you want them to eat healthy yourself. If you want them to exercise,
Yeah.
etc. The one thing I find is that, I would encourage any parent out there or future parent to keep this in mind. Like, one thing you should never do is never talk negatively about yourself in front of your kid in terms of your body image, because they start to internalize that, oh, maybe I shouldn't like my body. And definitely never talk about, how you talk about yourself in front of your kid is so important. And so many kids and now adults grew up with parents that were constantly like, oh, I hate how I look, I'm not happy. And again, that becomes their normal, right? So try to be happy with yourself so your kid sees you happy. When you're not, that really impacts your kid, right? And, talking about your child's weight or things like that, you want to try to stay away from that, because, again, I hear it from parents all day long, and who were once kids who were still overcoming their parents' comments, right? And they were certainly well-intended, but they could have a lifetime impact.
Dude, I don't think I've ever heard anybody actually say that or verbalize it that way, but that's so true. Is like, if I'm around my kids talking about myself in a negative way, like, oh, look at this fat here, or whatever, whatever the thing is, they learn that that's a normal thing to do, is to criticize yourself and to look down upon yourself and to have that negative self-talk. I don't know why that's not talked about more, but man, that's powerful stuff.
Thanks. I mean, so we're a big basketball family, right? I love basketball. I'm coaching my kids basketball. And like, I even noticed this, like when we're shooting around outside, if I miss a few shots, I'm like, oh, I suck. And it's like, I don't want my kid to hear that.
Yeah.
And like, I really paid attention. Like, I don't say that anymore. It's like, oh man, I got to work on my form, or I got to adjust my like aim or whatever it is. But I suck. Like, I don't want him to like have that negative self-talk.
Yeah.
So just pay attention to that. How you talk about yourself in front of your kids is super impactful.
I remember my son when he was 3 years old. He still struggles with talking clearly. Like, he's got kind of a struggle with a lot of the letters, right? So, but I remember he was trying to say something to me, and I was like, wait, say that again. And he was trying again, and I was like, buddy, try again. I'm not sure what you're trying. And he goes, oh, I'm no good at talking. And I was like, oh, geez, it started at 3. He's already like down on himself saying, I'm no good at talking. And it like broke my heart, because I'm like, no, buddy, you're doing fine. Like, you're 3. Like, that's totally normal. Like, we're working on these letters. And man, it just, teaching our kids to have a better language around themselves, so important.
And it all starts with how we talk
about
ourselves in front of them. I mean, just, and of course, like the way you talk to him, you'd be like, no, of course not. You're still learning. You're a work in progress. But then when it's ourselves and we're alone, we're like, oh, I suck, etc. So we really have to be careful with that.
What other advice do you have for parents who are, dealing with trying to grow a business like you are? You're self-employed, trying to build a business, especially maybe in the earlier years, and you're trying to balance both, work-life balance. Like, what have you found has worked for you? Where's been your high points and struggles?
So I went cold turkey. I quit my full-time job, went MyBodyTutor, or now formerly MyBodyTutor, now MyBodyTutor. And, but that was also 17 years ago, right? I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. And for me, it was all in. And the pain of staying where I was, was greater than the pain of, trying to start this and seeing what happens. For me, it was really more of a mission. So I think when you're chasing a mission, when you're chasing a purpose, you have a massive advantage over someone who's chasing an opportunity. And there's nothing wrong with chasing opportunities, but I think if you're chasing opportunities, you're always going to be on to the next opportunity. When you're chasing a mission, it's just something that you have to do, right? It's your life's work. I mean, this is my life's work. So for me, as corny or as cliche as it sounds, it never really felt like work. It was like, this is what I want to do. I'd be doing it for free.
Yeah.
But I guess to answer your question, I think you have to decide, are you going to go cold turkey, or are you going to kind of moonlight? You don't necessarily have to make that decision. And oftentimes I encourage people to moonlight, because, if you're worrying about money, it's hard to be the best version of yourself, right? Yeah. If you're worried about putting food on the table, then moonlight, but act as if you don't have that money, right? Because that comfort is the enemy.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
So I would say choose what you want, but I think if you have kids and financial responsibilities, as we all do, just maybe go moonlight, but also, act as if you don't have that comfort.
Yeah, that's really good, man. What advice do you have for somebody who in their fitness feels like they've hit a plateau? Like, they've been trying to lose weight, they got to a certain point, they're there, and they're doing the things they generally right, but they're just not getting to where they want. They're not getting that six-pack, or that, not getting the miles in for running, whatever their goal is. They're not getting there. What advice do you have?
So you like a hot take? You want a good hot take?
Please.
Here's the hot take. I don't believe in plateaus.
Ooh.
It's really a consistency issue. Rarely is someone super consistent and they're not progressing. It's almost always a consistency issue. In my experience, 17 plus years, 99.9% of the time, it's a consistency issue. It's not a plateau. So
Can you explain that more?
So what they're doing and they don't realize is they're overeating or they're eating way more than they think they are. That's the bottom line. And time after time, we'll talk with people, Adam, I think I'm eating really well. I'm exercising consistently. My diet is really healthy. And then very quickly, when they become a client and we get to see what they're doing on a daily basis, it's very clear why they're not progressing. Very clear. So it's almost always overeating, or they're eating more than they think they are, or they're eating when they don't even realize it. It's emotional eating, stress eating.
Yeah, what are some of the common ways that people overeat without knowing it? Like I'll give you an example that I know I do. I steal a chicken nugget from my kid, and then it turns into 2 or maybe 3. But what are some other reasons?
Yes, so finishing your kid's plate, that's I would just make a hard, fast rule. No, it's again,
kid food for kid.
You finishing their food is not helping them. It's not feeding any children. It's still a form of waste, right? So that's number one. I'll never forget this client named Joe. He ate quote unquote perfectly. And he's, we spoke before he signed up, and he was like, nothing I do is working. I can't lose weight. And to me, like, I rub my hands. I'm like, this is my favorite. Like, I've made a career out of helping people who've tried everything and nothing works. Like, I'm excited. Turns out he was eating quote unquote perfectly, but he was having some hummus with his lunch. Turns out he was having a half a container of hummus every day. A half a container of hummus is probably 500 calories easily.
Yeah.
He was not sharing that. He was saying, I was having some hummus.
Yeah.
So like, that's one example. It's like, well, how much are you eating? And that's where when a client shows a picture of what they ate, it's very clear why they're not progressing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a principle that we operate inside the Better Life Tribe. It's like step one. We call it tell the truth, and the idea is like being radically honest with yourself and with your whether it's accountability buddy or a coach or whoever. Like being radically true, because we lie to ourselves by misleading ourselves, right? Things like that. Like I had a little bit of this. I had a little bit to drink of alcohol. Well, what's a little bit? Well, I had 2 drinks. Okay, what were they? Oh, they were Mai Tais. Do you know it's got 450 calories each? You had 2 of them? Like now you got 900 calories, and you did that 4 times last week? Like all of a sudden I had a little bit to drink, turns into something much more potent. So just being that idea of being really honest with yourself. And that comes to business too. Like how many cold calls did you actually make? How many DMs did you actually do? How many offers did you actually submit? Being really honest with yourself. Because nobody likes to be the bad guy. And when you're honest with yourself, sometimes you find out you are.
Yep. And, lying to yourself is one of the worst feelings in the world.
Yeah.
And when you come clean, it's very liberating. It's very empowering.
Yeah.
And as I often tell people and clients, like what you eat in private, you wear in public.
Oh,
so
that's good.
You could be lying to yourself, but the results, you're not going to see the results. You could be doing those calls, those DMs, but the proof is in the pudding.
I heard a line years ago on some movie, but it was a minute on the lips, a lifetime on the hips.
Yep,
right?
exactly.
And I'm
exactly.
like, ooh, that's so true. But like you said earlier, it doesn't mean you can't ever have those things.
No, not at all. And that's self-sabotage is something I love exploring. But one of the reasons why we self-sabotage is we fear the very thing we say we want. And when it comes to weight loss, people think, they can't ever enjoy their favorite food, or they have to be in the gym for hours a day. That's just not true, right? It's a story we tell ourselves to protect ourselves from doing the hardest thing, which is change, right? The easiest thing of all is to do nothing. So we come up with these stories, we come up with these narratives to, again, protect ourselves from changing.
Yeah.
So when you actually say, that's not true, you actually can enjoy cookies or milkshakes or pizza and still lose weight. People are like, really? Because again, discomfort obviously is uncomfortable, and it's easier to just remain the same.
Yeah.
But when you challenge those assumptions, it makes all the difference.
So let's go through some of the common excuses or reasons that people have for not getting in shape. Number one is I'm just too busy to work out. Most of our listeners have kids, many of them young kids. I don't have time to get to the gym. What's your answer to that?
Well, I would say first off, let's keep this in mind. 80% of body composition, 80% of weight loss is diet, right? It's about what, why, and how you eat. Right. This is why you see people working their butts off in the gym, even with a trainer, not looking any different.
Yep.
So we like to say diet is the key to weight loss. Exercise is the key to energy, stress relief, and a better mood, right? And a better life. Let's just say that, right? I think everything you do inside the gym helps you do everything else outside better, right? So exercise is the key to energy, stress relief, and a better mood. Keep those separate, because a lot of people, especially those that are busy, and some people don't like exercising, they force themselves to exercise, and what do? They reward themselves with food. Right? For those people, from a calorie standpoint alone, they'd be better off laying in bed, not exercising, and not eating the pint of ice cream as a reward versus exercising and then eating the pint of ice cream, right? So exercise is a reward in and of itself. And I think a lot of people, the first thing they think they have to do is exercise for hours a day or punish themselves or just do this grueling workout. And then they're miserable, right? Use your limited willpower, right? We all have limited willpower. Focus on your nutrition first. And if you don't like exercise, fine. Let's figure out what you like doing. And if you do like doing it, we have to make time, right? But first and foremost, diet is the key to weight loss.
What about excuse a lot of women maybe will give is I don't want to look bulky. Like I don't want to work out because I don't want to look jacked.
So, I mean, it's one of my favorites. So there's many men and women who spend a lot of their time trying to look bulky, and they can't look bulky.
Yeah.
It is not so easy to look bulky, okay? The bulky comes from overeating, right? You're not going to look bulky from lifting weights, doing resistance training, etc. That doesn't happen. You look bulky because you're eating too much. So I promise you, lifting weights are not going to make you look bulky. It's your diet that's going to make you look bulky.
All right, another excuse. I don't like vegetables. I can't just eat vegetables all day. I just can't stand them.
So I would say don't eat vegetables because it's far more important to lower your body fat and get healthier than focus on eating certain foods you don't like. There's plenty of other nutritious foods. Focus on the foods you like, ignore the foods you don't.
That's a good move, because I think a lot of people are against getting like their health dialed in because they're just like, I don't want to eat all that crappy food, like the stuff that I hate, like I'm eating spinach salad all day long.
So one of the reasons why we get the results you do, as I said, the threefold, right? Catered diet to you, change your mindset, psychology, and habits, and accountability. But the first one is really important, is a catered diet to you. Start with the foods you like, right? Start with the nutritious foods you like. Start with the foods that you feel good eating, and start from there, right? A lot of diets fail because it's a cookie cutter diet. It's an eat this, don't eat that approach. And if you're taking, if it's like, well, if I don't like this food, then how long is that going to last?
Yeah.
Right. So start with the foods you like. Forget about the foods you don't like for now.
What if the only foods I like are pasta, cereal, and ice cream?
Then call me. We'll have to we'll figure out what is nutritious out of those. And there's nothing wrong with pasta every now and then.
Sure.
But I would say, how can we level that up, right? How can we maybe add some protein to it, or add something else where it's just less pasta and something else?
Yeah, and I think most people unless you're vegetarian or vegan, most people are like, oh yeah, I like chicken or I like steak.
Right.
Like, so can we just start there? Like, is that okay to eat red meat?
I mean, yeah. I mean, this becomes more. Yes. I mean, I would say everything in moderation, even moderation. I would say red meat is fine. I wouldn't eat it every single day personally. But I eat red meat, a hamburger and French fries is one of my indulgent meals.
Yeah.
Right. And I have that at least once a week.
Yeah. What do you think about the fact that, there are studies and data around you will live longer, your best life ever is by eating vegan. And then there are studies and data that's like the best thing you can do is eat carnivore, only meat. And then the best thing you can possibly do is the South Beast diet. And like there's data and studies that back up every single diet that we've come up with. How do we make sense of that? Like, how do we move forward in a world which every single thing you're doing, somebody says is going to kill you?
Yeah. So that's exactly right. I truly think, and as trite as this might sound, the best diet in the world is one you can actually stick with. To me though, there has to be some common sense, right? So for example, keto, people swear by keto, even though it's by far the least compliant diet. Everyone thinks about keto, they want to start it. Most people cannot stick with it. It's
Why
really
is that?
hard. If you eat a half an avocado, you're out of ketosis.
Yeah.
It's very hard to actually be in ketosis. But the point is, to me, eating double bacon cheeseburgers, that doesn't really make all that much sense to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or just, like South Beach diet, like all these diets where it's like, Atkins, like where you're just loading up on cholesterol, like cheese and bacon, like that's just a lot. So I would say find the diet you like and find a diet that you can feel like you can easily stick with for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That's where I would start.
Yeah, I tend to get into this mood, and I've done it for the last 7-8 years, where I'll maybe have a rougher period. It's the holidays, right? And I tend to eat too much or whatever, and we can talk about that. But then I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm going on this. I'm gonna go this. I'm an intermittent fast. I'm gonna keto. I'm gonna whatever. And every time I remind myself of something, I'm sure I read it from you, is like, if I can't stick with it forever, don't start it now. It's like, what can I just get back to? So what advice do you have for people who are in that shape? They just screwed up bad. Maybe it was the holidays. Maybe yesterday they went and ate 18 slices of pizza, and now they want to punish themselves, is what they do. What do you recommend in that?
Well, first and foremost, I always say the other definition of insanity no one talks about is stopping something that's already working. Right? And we've talked about this through the years, where it's like, dude, you've lost 40 pounds. You look incredible. Your health is great. Every metric you can possibly measure has improved greatly. Why are you going away from what worked? So it's how do we get back to where you were? And the problem is after the holidays, if you have a binge or whatever it might be,
Yep.
you go on this thing. It's like, well, how do I get back? Start small. And momentum, here's the tricky part about fitness. It's a decision we make every single day.
Yeah.
Right? It's a decision we make every single day. Sometimes we choose well. Sometimes we don't choose as well. And momentum can quickly, switch to a state of inertia, right? So there are times, you feel like unstoppable. I got this. This is so easy. And then you have a weekend of eating pizza all day, every day, and you feel like a slug, right? So the question is, how do you get back? It truly starts with one choice. Start with your very next choice. Get some movement in, even going for a walk.
Yeah.
Start small. And very quickly, you can build back some momentum. But the mistake we make is thinking that, like, well, what's this small choice going to do? It's not going to do anything. And then it's this constant battle of this isn't worth it. This isn't going to do anything. It's not going to make any change versus I have to change everything, but this is too daunting. Always go small. Always start small. You can always turn up the dial. But when you're in that state of like, I feel like a slug, just start small. Start with your very next choice. And also get rid of any and all temptations in your house.
Yeah.
Right? You do, as I said, you don't get bonus points for using your like willpower. So make it easy on yourself. Right? Make it easy on yourself to do good and make it hard on yourself to do bad.
Yeah, that's great, man. What is 75 hard, and what do you think about it? What do you know about it? What do you think about it?
So, 75 hard is, what I know about it is you're committing to 75 days of doing, I've actually never done it. I know a lot of people have done it, but you're doing extra, like, what is it, about 2 hours of exercise every day?
Yeah, like 2 exercises, yeah. Gallon of water.
Just all this stuff.
Yeah.
I think, like anything, it's more for the mental resilience you build.
Yeah.
It's kind of like fasting. A lot of people are, if that helps you, great. But anything where there's an end date to me is just a short-term thing.
Yeah.
And I don't love that because I want people to pick something and stick with it for the rest of their lives.
Yep.
And if 75 hard, listen, if that helps you get a mental reset, if it helps you get out of, the pattern you're in or the cycle you're in, great. But I've seen a lot of people do 75 hard and then they go completely the opposite way.
Yeah, I did 75 hard 2 years ago. I actually did it for an interesting reason. I set a goal to get to the gym a number of times or certain number of workouts. And I was at like early November, and I was like, oh shoot. Like I did the math and because I wasn't tracking it good enough throughout the year because I didn't have the Better Life Tribe yet. I wasn't tracking enough, and I was like, well, there's no way I can do this unless I go like almost 2 workouts a day. It was like I have to do a lot of workouts. And then I heard about 75 hard, and I was like, well, if I do that, I'll hit the goal. So I hit the goal. In the process, I lost like 22 pounds, something like that over the 75 days because I stuck with a diet. I had no sugar, no alcohol, 2 workouts a day. Of course you're going to lose weight. Like it's a good amount of work and less calories. I gained back that 22 pounds in a week. Yeah. Like it was a week because the whole time I saw that finish line, I said, as soon as I get done, I'm going to eat that XYZ. I'm going to have that drink. I'm going to do that thing. It took a week and I gained it all back. I didn't feel any more mentally tough afterward. They say it's mental toughness. I felt no more mentally tough. I just felt more defeated.
It's a great lesson, by the way. Whatever you're doing, if you're saying to yourself, I can't wait for this to be over, then it's not sustainable, right? So like if you're setting out to, 10 DMs a day or 10 cold calls a day, if you're like, I can't do it, scale it down, right? Whatever you're doing diet-wise or exercise-wise, if you're saying, I can't wait for this to be over, you're going to lose. You're doomed for failure, right? So do something where you can easily stick with it. And that's that's the reason why I'm so against those things is because they always end with, there's an ending and the ending usually goes into the negative of like gaining back the weight. Yeah,
it really does. What do you think about things like cold blood, speaking of mental toughness, cold plunging, saunas, like all the rage right now? Like how do you feel on that world?
So I think cold plunges have become first of all, has anyone ever done a cold plunge without posting it on social media, right? It's like CrossFit. What do you take if you take someone who CrossFits and cold plunges? Yeah, the world explodes. So what do I think about cold plunges? I think it's a great way to build your discomfort muscle. Mm-hmm. One of the things, if I could share one thing with my kid, it would be, or one key to success would be increase your TFD, your tolerance for discomfort.
Ooh, that's good.
And I truly believe everything we want is on the other side of discomfort. And I think cold plunges are a wonderful way to build your TFD, to build your tolerance for discomfort. Do I think they're the only way? No, right? When you do hard things, it builds courage. You feel amazing. For me, I love weightlifting. right?
Yeah.
For me, after a tough workout, I feel powerful, I feel unstoppable, I feel wonderful. You don't have to sit in a cold bath or a freezing cold bath to get that same feeling. So if that works for you, great. But I think there's other ways to do it. I think saunas, actually have more research in terms of sweating. But again, if you feel great after it, wonderful,
Yeah.
right? That it's not all the power to you, but there's other ways to get what you want.
Yeah. I bought a cold plunge and a sauna, right? But I bought it for a different reason, is because I value community so much, and I believe in investing in experience in the community. I kind of could care less. Like, I don't feel super jazzed after doing a cold plunge. I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so much better. And yeah, there's some data that suggests you maybe will lose fat faster, maybe you have more energy. But what I love about it is that I got 4 or 5 dudes over at my house, and we're like, we could sit down and go drink and talk, or we'd be like, hey, it'd be really fun. Let's go jump in the cold plunge. And then it's like we go do it, and now it's a bonding thing. And we go sit in the sauna, and it's an experience now. It's a memory. And that's why I bought mine, but it's
right. And
it's
research
still
is
fun.
And research has proven like those types of experiences actually can improve your happiness and longevity, even maybe more so than the actual cold plunge itself, which is still up for debate.
Yeah, that's cool. What about protein? How important is protein in somebody's diet? How much should somebody get of protein in your opinion?
So I think protein is super important. I think protein is, it'll help keep you satiated, right? And that's really important. One of the things we help our clients do is solve for hunger, right? And it's no fun being hungry on a diet, right? That's one of the number one reasons why people fall off the diet. So it's how can we help you feel less hungry? How can we help you feel satiated? And protein is a powerful way to do that. That being said, I think especially in today's social media, whatever, people are obsessing over getting a certain amount of protein per pound of body weight, right? So you weigh 200 pounds, eat 200 grams of protein a day. What I find is people are overeating protein, or they're doing anything to get that protein amount at the expense of overeating, right? So it's like, well, I feel good, I had dinner, I'm done, but oh my God, I still have to eat 40 grams of protein. So then they wind up eating 40 grams of protein more, but they didn't even need that food, right? So there's a lot of people that are hitting their targets, yet they're overweight. So I would say instead, a much healthier way to do it, I think, in terms of an aesthetic perspective, a health perspective, is to say, what protein am I building this meal around? And that's it. Versus being obsessed with a certain number.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Again, when you're obsessed with a number, you're just doing it at the expense of other things.
That makes sense. What about calories? What do you view on counting calories? Is that a good idea, bad idea?
So I think counting calories does 3 things. Number 1, it doesn't change your relationship with food. Number 2, it relies solely on willpower, which, as we know, always fades. And number 3, it eventually makes you crazy.
So not a fan.
I'm not a fan. That said, some people prefer that structured approach. At MyBodyTutor, we take a much more behavioral-based approach, because when you change your relationship with food, when you learn things like hunger cues and how you feel during and after a meal, that's lasting. You're going to have that forever. Typically, when you're counting something or you're tracking macros, that's a willpower-based plan, and it always fades.
What about those who want to really get in shape for some reason? The bodybuilding, kind of like, I'm going to get jacked this year. Like, is that where macros come in, or even that you don't think so?
I think when you're going from 95th percentile to 99, then yes, tracking everything matters. But for most people, you don't need to count calories to track macros. I don't count calories to track macros. I'm 41. I'm in the best shape of my life. Well, I will be 41 next month. I'm in the best shape of my life, right? I don't count calories and macros.
Yeah. Well, let's talk to the 40-year-old guys out there. So for men who are in their late 30s, early 40s, what should they be doing right now to stay in the best shape of their life? To get in and stay in the best shape of their life?
So number 1, focus on a diet that you feel like you can stick with, right? So, lean proteins, vegetables, if you like them, complex carbohydrates. Find a diet you feel like you can stick with. Don't obsess too much over which diet you're doing.
Okay.
Find a diet that you enjoy. Number 2, I would say, mine is always going to be nutrition heavy first, because that's where so many results are going to come from. Understand why you're eating in the first place, right? So a lot of diets and programs, really most, obsessively focus on what you're eating. And of course I care about what you're eating, and all of our coaches care about what their clients are eating. But when you also care about why you're eating, it's a lot easier to change what you're eating, right? So, for example, it's during a long day, you're really stressed, you're anxious, you're frustrated, whatever it is, you typically grab a cookie or chips. That's why, understanding your triggers is really powerful. And one of the things we do with our clients is when we help them understand their triggers, we work on different responses to those triggers.
Yeah.
So the second thing is understand why you're eating, right? rarely is it about the food. It's about what the food allows you to avoid and or the void it fills, right? As I said, so keep that in mind. So much of the eating we do is emotional, stress, mindless eating. So find a diet you can stick with, understand why you're eating. Movement. I think movement is the key to energy. One of the things I've been thinking a lot about lately is life is beautiful. It's amazing. It's incredible. Throughout the day, there's this energy that builds in us. If we don't do anything with that energy, it needs somewhere to go, right? It's like our kids before bedtime. They got to get their willies out, right? They got to get that energy out. Adults, typically, they work all day. Maybe they hang out with their kids. Maybe they sit on the couch, and then often they just go to bed. That energy doesn't go anywhere. And that energy needs to do something. So typically what we do is we suppress that energy. And we suppress it typically with food. But if you can get some sort of movement in to get that energy out, that is life-changing. And it doesn't matter what you do. Go for a walk, listen to a podcast. Hopefully, if you're walking, hey guys, but just get some movement in. Get your body moving. Movement equals energy. And when you feel energized, then you're more likely to want to eat well, right? It becomes a virtuous cycle.
This is a really like a specifically to me question, but maybe it affects somebody else there listening. Almost everybody in the world says, including you, and every fitness person says, like when you work out, you feel better. I just feel more energized. I go to the gym, I feel better. In my entire life, I've never felt that way. I always feel more miserable the rest of the day when I work out. Why is that? What am I doing wrong?
I hope we can work out together at some point.
We should.
While we hang out. So I think one of the secrets or tricks is to stop. Well, maybe what we'll say. Let me finish my thought.
Yeah.
Is to stop your workout when you're feeling good.
Okay.
I think a lot of people, it's for me even, and this is my life's work. This is what I do, right? The first 5 to 10 minutes is really, really hard. There's a lot of days I don't feel like getting into the gym, right? But once I get through the first 5 to 10 minutes, I feel great or I feel good, and then it gets better and better and better. And then there's a point where you push yourself and you go down and it becomes diminishing.
Yes.
You want to stop when you're at that peak. I'm sure, listen, you're
That's
obviously a
great
very
advice.
successful guy. You push yourself in many aspects of life. And I'm sure there's a part of you that's like, well, if I'm not suffering, if I'm not sore for the next 18 days after this workout, I didn't do my job.
Yeah.
I would say stop when you're feeling good. Now, here's the question. Do you ever feel good at all during your workouts?
I mean, I don't feel like, super jazzed, like, woohoo, I'm so happy I'm here. Unless I'm playing like a sport, if I'm playing pickleball or something, that maybe it's a lot of fun. At the gym, I don't typically feel like super amazing at any given point. I don't feel terrible the whole time, but I think you're right. I do have a kind of feeling like I got to leave it all out there on the field. It's like I better like really, and then I'm just like for hours, I'm just like down energy and I'm tired. I want to take a nap.
Right. So I would say scale it back a little bit, slow it down, leave feeling good, and allow yourself to feel that high. I mean, and listen, for a guy like you, and everyone listening or watching, any time spent out of your head and in your body is time well spent. And I really try to view exercise as not therapy, but just a form of therapy, right? I'm out of my head a little bit. I'm feeling my muscles. I'm feeling my body move. Like that's really powerful, right? And perhaps you can use that time as a time to disconnect, right? And just really focus on, it's called the mind-muscle connection. So when you're lifting weights, you really want to imagine like the muscle growing. You're just really thinking about the muscle. So I would say really try to get in that flow and feel your muscles and feel your body moving. And I think you might feel a little better.
That's really good advice. I'm going to play with that. Because if I go for a jog, like an easy jog, not like a 10-mile run, but if I just go for an easy jog, I usually feel really good afterwards because I'm not pushing myself. I'm just having a good time and whatever. Now, there's reasons I need to stop probably jogging because my back's always sore afterwards. But I do enjoy, that's a simple workout I always feel better after doing. So I think that leans into what you're saying.
And that's good because before you said you never feel good after exercising.
Yeah.
So
I do after a nice jog. Yeah. That feels.
So so that might be for you. That's what for some people running, they get that high more so than that dopamine spike more so than from weightlifting.
Yeah.
That's the key though. Find what gives it for you, and you have to experiment, right?
Yeah.
Just like with the food, experiment with what you like.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, man. Well, we got to start moving this along. So why don't we head over to the next segment of the show? It's called the 3-2-1 pivot. The idea being here is a pivot is your life is going one direction and something changes it. Just a little bit. It could be 1 degree, 50 degrees, 90 degrees, whatever. So we're going to start 3 books that change the direction of your life. 3 pivot books, 2 pivot people, and 1 pivot quote. So we'll start with the books. 3 pivot books.
So Pour Your Heart Into It by Howard Schultz.
Never heard of that one.
Love that book. Obviously, a Starbucks founder. I read that book before I started any business. And to me, it just proved that if you truly have a passion, you could build your life around that.
Yeah.
And he went to Italy. He was enamored by the coffee experience there, and he wanted to bring that to America. And just he put his heart and soul into it. And that's what I've tried to do with MyBodyTutor.
I was going to say, I think if I had to summarize why BodyTutor is successful, it's because you actually care. Like you are the business in a lot of ways. And I think if like, why did Bigger Pockets do so well? It's because Josh first, like he was Bigger Pockets. Then it was I came in. It was believed so much in what we're doing. And now Better Life, the reason it's doing so well, and we sold 1,000 memberships in the first year, is just like, this is all like, this is my life. I care about habits and routines and the psychology and the things, the little things you do. Yeah, I don't think we can overstate the importance of that, of just going all in on something you love.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when you really care about something, you attract people who care a lot about it too, right?
Yes.
So like, John, Jeremy, Haley, like, they have helped tremendously with MyBodyTutor.
Yeah.
And then we've built an incredible team of coaches.
Yeah.
Right. And they all really care because they know we really care.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Well, 2 other books.
Second book I would say is Good to Great by Jim Collins.
Love that one.
I love that book just because, I've always been interested in entrepreneurship. I think the American dream is when you can marry, what you love doing and kind of make a living out of it, and marrying it with entrepreneurship. And to me, it was like, if I'm going to start something, I want to build an enduring great company. And I just remember reading that and it stuck with me. I was super inspired by the idea of just building this incredibly great company with passionate people.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
All right. Book number 3.
Last book for me is The Dip by Seth Godin. Love that book. The big takeaway for me in that book was, if you're going to do something, be the best in the world at it. For me, my goal with MyBodyTutor is to be the #1 company in the world for helping people stay consistent with their diet and exercise. And I truly believe that, it's coming up with a plan, changing their mindset, psychology, and habits, and having daily accountability. And that is our mission. We want to help people stay consistent better than anyone on the planet. And that book is really all about be the best in the world at it. And now the interesting part for other people, let's say you're, a real estate guy or a girl or whatever it might be, the world doesn't necessarily have to be the entire world. The world could be your town. The world could be your state, whatever it might be. The world isn't necessarily the entire world.
Beautiful. What about people? 2 people have changed the direction of your life.
2 is hard, man. There's been so many people who have helped me so much. Am I allowed to do more than 2 people?
You can do 2 more than 2 people.
All right. So I'll say.
But I'm going to ask you your favorite of those. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
I got to say, there's no doubt my kids, Zachary and Asher, have changed my life forever for the best. It's just, they've taught me patience. They've taught me compassion. It's interesting when your kid does something that you don't necessarily agree with and you talk to them about it, and then you realize how was I spoken to as a kid? It teaches you self-compassion, right? Imagining yourself as a little child being like, that always helps, right? So it's taught me patience, compassion, self-compassion. It's taught me the importance, or it's reminded me the importance of play, right? Every single day, my kids want to play.
Yeah, every day.
Every day. And I love it, right? It's just a natural part of life for them. And I think as we get older, we forget about play. And, I think one of the reasons why we resort to food and other things is because we don't play. And we all have this inner child in us. And if that gets neglected, then we fulfill it with other things. So play has become a huge, I play with my kids for hours every day.
Yeah.
And one of my goals is for them to take me for granted, right? Every single day, if, we play every single day, I'll never say no to them. But if there was ever a day, like they'd be like, oh, why aren't we playing today? It's like, dude, we play every single day. But that's great. I want them to expect that.
Yep. I love it. All right.
Oh, wait,
Any other people?
Yes.
Yeah, you got more.
Then I would say, I guess my parents, my mom, I think as a parent also, you realize that it's very hard to sometimes tell your kid what they need to hear. My mom always used to ask me, do you want me to tell you what you need to hear or what you want to hear? And that's not so easy. Again, when you're a parent, it's like, it's not so easy to do that. So I, greatly respect her for that. My mom had an incredible work ethic. And she's just always been there for me, and I think that I appreciate that, and I try to be that way for other people in my life. And then my father, my parents are divorced, but he always told me, if you believe in something, you put your mind to it, you can accomplish that. Thankfully, I did believe him. And the big thing with my father is health, right? And without it, you don't have nothing. So I think a lot of people, you know, I always say success at the expense of your health isn't really success. And I learned that early on. And then last but not least, I would have to throw out, you know, my wife, of course, very extremely patient, very present. She's an incredible mother, incredible wife, you know, and a quick shout out, of course, to my in-laws who are incredible. I feel like this is like an award ceremony now.
I love it.
Like, these people have just been all so instrumental in my life. And the one thing I always think about with my in-laws is, you know, my youngest son, Asher, was born 29 weeks. So he was 11 weeks early, premature.
Wow.
So he's in the NICU for 70 days. And there's two types of people, right? Or maybe there's three, but there's two types of people. There's people who say, how can I help you? And there's people who spring into action and just help you. So when my son, Asher, was born at 29 weeks, like within minutes, you know, Sarah's parents were like, all right, Sarah's mom, her name is Lynn, you know, she's going to stop working. She was, you know, a speech therapist. She's going to stop working so she can take care of our older son, Zachary. And so Sarah can be in the hospital with him for 70 days, right? And like Sarah and you know, her mom and Michael, her dad. So like I always think about that. It's like, how can I help is certainly powerful and really nice, but even more so is like just help, right? And it's I think about that a lot. And you know, they're incredible people.
That's such a good point, man. Like, yeah, people ask me, when we gave birth to, you know, Wilder and even Rosie, how can I help? But there's some people that just step in there and just do stuff. And that's never unwanted.
Right. And it's just two types of people, or the third type of person that doesn't do anything. But like, I just think I'm forever grateful for that. It's just the type of people they are. Is just, you know, instead of asking how they can help, they helped, right? She didn't think twice about, you know, putting her job on leave, and Mike, like, you know, they had to change their entire lives for that.
Yeah.
And that's the type of people they are. So
incredible. What about a pivot quote? Some quote that helps kind of guide the direction of your life or has changed it a little bit?
Is it a big no-no to use my own quote?
You can use your own quote. I do that often.
So discomfort is your compass. I live by that.
Discomfort is your compass.
Yes. So if you do what you've always done, it's going to feel comfortable, right? Just because it feels natural.
Yeah.
Right. And if you do something different, it's going to feel unnatural. It's going to feel uncomfortable. And if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get the same outcome. If you want different outcome, different results, you have to do something differently. Hence, discomfort is your compass. So whenever I have the opportunity and there's a choice, I almost always go with the uncomfortable choice, because that almost always gets me to where I want to be.
Amazing. Next segment is called Past, Present, Future. So 3 questions, one about your past, one your present, one your future. So what is your advice to your younger self? And let's go from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
So I think when I first started out, I had these ideas of, you know, when I get here, when I get there, I'll be happy. And I've realized, especially as I get older, turning 41 next month, my kids are getting older, I feel like time is going by so fast.
Yeah.
I've been just thinking about this a lot lately. And we all have things we love. We all have things we hate. We all have things we look forward to and dread. But what I realize is they all go by in a second. We might as well enjoy them. So I think for me, the advice would be to try to enjoy everything as much as possible. Try to just be present, and instead of saying when I get to this or when I get to that, enjoy the struggle, because again, whatever you dread, whatever you love, it's all going to be gone quickly. You might as well enjoy it. So I guess the lesson from that is never wish away time, because when you're wishing something is over, you're wishing away time.
Yeah. Powerful, man. What about in the present? What is a habit or action or routine, something that you've done in the last 12 months that you've changed about your life in the last 12 months that's just giving you a better life?
I'm trying to have one phone-free day.
Yeah.
Like many people, just the constant having it in my pocket. It's a big distraction. And I notice when I don't have it on me, again, it's always easier to avoid the dragon than slay it, right? If it's not in my pocket, I don't have to slay it. So just having one phone-free day has really helped me.
Yeah. What day do you do?
Try to do Sunday.
Yeah.
And it's helped me a lot.
Yeah, I've been trying to do, and I kind of got off the track a little bit now, traveling so much last year. But yeah, Friday night to Saturday night, that 24-hour period, I kind of coincide that with, like, we do a big dinner on Friday night, and that's always like one of my planned indulgences. Is like, I'm gonna have ice cream that night. I'm gonna have my pizza that night, and then I look forward to it all week. And then also just having no phone. Now I'm fully present. Friends are over. We're hanging out late. Like, I'm not distracted by my phone. It all just goes together.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating how, technology is a wonderful helper, but we don't want it to be a slave. We want
Yeah.
it, we want it to serve us, not just, we don't want to be a slave to it.
Yeah, for sure. And then someday when you pass away, people are going to stand around your casket and they're going to say, Adam, he was what? What are they saying about you?
So ultimately legacy, huh?
Yeah.
So I think, legacy is what you leave behind. And I always think about the quote, when you teach your son, you teach your son's son.
Mm.
And I think ultimately what I want are lessons that I share with my family. I share with my sons that they can share with their daughters or sons one day, our clients. So I think it would be Adam has really inspired us to live our best life. I hope people say that Adam is very caring and generous and just cares a lot about people. But to me, it's the lessons and teachings that I've shared with my family, with students, with clients, etc. Because ultimately, I'm a teacher at heart. My mom was a former teacher. My aunt was a teacher. My grandma was a teacher. And that's what I love doing. Amazing.
All right, 2 more questions to wrap things up. Number 1, what are you excited for in the future? What's coming up, whether it's with BodyTutor or otherwise?
I'm excited about. I'm always excited about my kids. I just to seeing how they, just things we work on, things we, I'm coaching their basketball team, so seeing how that turns out. I think kids just give you something to be excited about. And then MyBodyTutor, we recently launched a new program. Super excited about that to see how that turns out. This is year 17. Thankfully, I feel like we're just getting started too, and I'm as excited as ever.
I know this is one of the questions I was going to ask you, but just so people know, what does price range look like for to have working with BodyTutor?
So our base plan is $299 per month. Our upper level is $899 per month. The core component is each day you're sharing what you ate in our app, and then every single day your coach is writing back to you. The only difference is with the more expensive tiers, it's just the amount of phone calls you have.
Okay.
But every day you're interacting with your coach, they're coaching you, they're supporting you, they're guiding you, they're holding you accountable. Amazing. And it is amazing. Like I love what you're doing. Where can people find out more about you? MyBodyTutor.com. That's our website. You can also go to bodytutor.com.
I was gonna say, do you own the domain name? That's
Yes.
good at least.
And then we're all on the socials. I'm probably most active on Instagram, but MyBodyTutor, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, I think even. So we're all over the place, and we're always here to help. If you have trouble staying consistent with your diet and exercise, I would love to help you, and I'm very confident we can. I agree, man. Thank you so much for being here. You're awesome. Thank you so much, man. This is incredible.